My Python's beginners course. In today's video, we are going to be going over lesson 1.2.1. So if you notice in the last class, we left off with 1.1.2, and next in order is actually 1.1.3, but I will not be going over these exercises as of now because they're simply just practice exercises for you guys to try and attempt on your own, and I feel as if it would be more helpful for me to actually cover the actual new material instead of just doing these practice exercises. But after I finish Unit 1, drawing shapes, I might go back and do them again, or not do them again, or do the actual practice exercises. But for right now, I will just continue with the actual lessons. So let's go ahead and click on 1.2.1. All right. All right, so in this lesson, we're going to be learning how to draw stars, right? So it's a new type of shape. We've only known circles before. But of course, we can also code in Python different kinds of shapes as well. So for example here, we have a circle and a star, right? And if you notice here, if you take a look at the code, there's actually an extra number here for a star, right? It has the same first three parameters, which would be the x and y coordinate for each of them, and then also the radius, which is 100 for each of them. But if you notice here, the star also has an additional parameter, which is the points parameter. So we'll take a look at how to code these actual stars in a little bit. So here's just the first checkpoint, which simply asks us to drag this star and change its values to make it this right here, which is the 80, 120 with a radius of 65 and 9 points on this star. So it's 80. So again, like we learned before, we start 0, 0, right? I don't think I can drag it all the way up there, but this is 0, 0. So if we were to go about, let's see, 80 out here, let me just pull it down a little bit. So this is about 80, and then just go down 120, which is right here-ish. Let me just get it perfect. All right, there we go. And now we just need to change the amount of points. So it looks like this changes the amount of points. So obviously we need 9 on this one because of this number. And after that, we just have to change the radius from this and just make it 65. So let's go ahead and do just that. And looks like you don't need to make it perfect, but you just click here to complete, and there we go. All right, let's go on to the next one. Good job. All right, so here's just discussing again that the circle has, of course, center x, center y, radius, right? X coordinate, y coordinate, the center, and of course then the radius. The star has this exact same thing, but with an additional parameter, which is for the number of points, right, as we've gone over. And here's just an image of a star that fits actually precisely inside of a circle of the same radius and same center, right? So as you can see here, fits perfectly inside. All right, so here are just some errors that could occur in your code if you were to do something wrong. So for example here, if you look at this, you can tell that there's only three three parameters here, whereas of course we need an extra parameter right after this 50, which I'm assuming is the radius, right? So it's x coordinate, y coordinate, radius, and then you also need points, right? So if you run this, an error has occurred, and yeah, you need takes 4 arguments. So this right here signifies that for the star shape you need 4 parameters, right? 4 arguments. So yeah, so you need to add an extra one there. Now here, this is really simple. You should be able to see this, that of course there isn't a closing parentheses around this code right here for the star. So of course you need closing parentheses right there, which it'll tell us, right? This parentheses was never closed. So make sure you guys close the parentheses whenever you're doing any of these shapes, right? All right, and then finally, right here, we have an error which is actually pretty important. So for stars, you cannot have a star with uh, 2 or less points, right? Obviously, you need to have a star that has 3 points or more. So when you're creating these stars, you want to make sure that when you're putting in that last parameter, that whatever your star is, you need to have more than 2 points, so three or more. Otherwise, it will not work, right? Because a star cannot have only 2 points. All right, so let's practice this first, or the second checkpoint rather, and let's take a look at what's going on here. All right, so it looks like we had this nice little drawing here in the canvas, or well, this is the solution page, but if you see in our canvas, we only have this right now. So let's see what's different, right? As you can see here, if you look at them, this shape looks good, and the circle, that's the sort of background is fine. But it looks like we need to add a shape here, and we need to change this star right here, and we also need to change the star as well. And of course, it'll tell you that here as well, but it's just good to always look and see if you can figure it out before you actually take a look at the code and the hints that they give you. Right, so this draws the background circle, that's fine. This draws the top right star, which is fine. And then finally, here we have to change the code. So these are for the stars in the top left and bottom right. All right. So if I were to hover over this one, I can see exactly which one this is. So it's sky blue, right? So it's obviously this one. So for this, if we look at the solution, we hover over it, right? The inspector tells us that the color is right, the center is also right, as well as the radius. But the thing that is different is the points, right? So we just need to change this points parameter to 3. If you see this corner up here, I can't really move my mouse there because others will hover over this one, but you can see that it has a points value of 3. So if I change this here to 3, it should work. So if we run it, and there we go, right? That one looks good. All right, same thing for this one. This green one right here, light green, looks like in the solution it needs to have 4 points. So if we just change that real quick, should be good. Run. Yep, looks good. And lastly, we just need to add this star right here, this 6-sided star, or 6-pointed star rather. So let's just go ahead and add that. So star, right? And then again, same as the circle, x coordinate, y coordinate, and radius 75. And then we need the points, right? That's what comes right after this is the points. So this has 6 points, so 6. And then of course we can't forget that the fill always comes last. Fill or the the fill color always comes last. So we just put fill equals pink, right? And we should be good, right? Obviously, you can use, again, I think I mentioned this in the last video, but you can use either double quotes here, and spaces are fine for the fill, for the fill and over here as well. But anyway, let's run this, and yep, looks good. All right, let's check it. All right, good job. That was not bad, right? All right, so let's move on. So stars also have another property, which is an additional property. It's not needed, right? But it comes after the fill color. So, or rather, so after the number of points, you're gonna have the fill color, and then after that, you can add roundness, right? So this is really important here. So this changes, as you can see, obviously the roundness or the sharpness of the star. So for example, this one over here has a roundness of 90, so it is the most round, and it continues to decrease and gets more sharp towards the end. All right, that's pretty good. We can always use that. And of course, the inspector also tells us that right here, as you can see, what the roundness is. So no problem with that. All right, so here's something new that is not only for stars, it's actually for other shapes as well, and it is called gradients, and it is a way to transition from one color to another, right? So as you can see from this one, from left to right, it goes from blue to green. But actually, if you look here, right, here's just the code, the syntax to gradient a shape, right? We need fill equals gradient then color 1, comma color 2, right? Like this with these single quotes. So now here we have an extra keyword, right? Instead of this fill equals color, fill equals whatever the color name is, here we have fill equals gradient and then the parentheses and then of course 2 colors because now you want to transition from one color to the next. So as you can see here when we run this, right, down here. So this one, the colors are transitioning from left to right, but the default gradient is actually from in to out. So as you can see here, this circle goes from blue, Dodger blue, to lime green on the outside. And this star here goes from lime green to Dodger blue on the outside, right? So flip-flopped. And as you can see here, of course, as always, the inspector tells us this with the gradient, and then it shows us lime green, Dodger blue here, and then Dodger blue, lime green over here. So yeah, pretty simple. It's just like the, it's in the same spot as the fill color, but it just adds a gradient, and then of course you need 2 colors, right? But same sort of idea here. And then of course you need these parentheses. So yeah, that's all for gradients really. Yeah, so it starts from the center and fades outwards. All right, so let's try this checkpoint and get a little practice with gradients. All right, so let's see here, right? My canvas and solution. This looks good. Let me see if. Oh, okay. I think I already did this one, so let me reset. Let me reset this real quick for you guys. Right, reset. All right, there we go. Now it looks a little different. So as you can see here, the only thing we're missing, everything's good. Like the shapes are good, but the only thing that's missing is that this circle does not have a gradient in our canvas currently. So that's what we need to add. And as you can see here, right, it might get a little confusing when there's a star or another shape, inside of another shape, but you can always tell by looking at each of the values. And of course, stars are the unique points, the unique shape with points, right? So you can tell that's for the star. And then the radiuses are actually listed in order of how they appear in the code. So when you draw the circle first, because it's the first line of code here, that's the radius that shows up first, right? Same with the center, but for this the centers are the same, so it doesn't show you the different centers, but otherwise it's in order of what is written in the code, right? So you can see here the radius and then the star's radius, the circle's radius and the star's radius, because the circle's drawn first and then the star. All right, anyway, let's add this gradient in. So it looks like they already did the fill first, so we just need to add gradient over here, parentheses, right? And I'm just gonna add this parentheses over here just because you need to just because you need it for this parentheses. You need to close both your parentheses. So remember that when you're making these gradients, right, there's gonna be an extra set of parentheses. All right, so let us go ahead and gradient this, and it looks like it wants us to go from cyan to Dodger blue. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. So cyan, and then so remember color 1, which is the middle, and then to color 2, to the outside. And of course it listed in order here, right? So it's cyan, comma Dodger blue, and it makes it a little bit easier to see that it's just cyan in the middle, and then of course it expands to Dodger blue. So that should be good. Let's see. And there we go. All right, pretty good, right? Not bad. All right, let's see what we have next. So we're almost done with it here. All right, we did this checkpoint. So to get the same gradient, okay, so this is how you change where the gradient begins and ends, right? Obviously, the default is it starts from the middle and expands outwards, but if you want to change it, here are a couple of keywords that you can use inside of this parentheses for the gradient that will actually alter it. So here it says start equals left, right? That's one of the ways you can do it. So there's top left, there's top right, left, right, bottom left, bottom, and bottom right. So basically all of the different corners and spots on the circle. So if you use any of these keywords, it'll start from that position and then fade into the other color as it goes the opposite way, kind of. So if you start with the top left, right, it'll fade this way. And it'll fade to the bottom right. Bottom right. So if you start top, it'll just fade into the bottom. So it's just like that. So obviously you can refer back here if you need to know how to structure this, but it's pretty simple. It's just the position, and if it has another word in it, you just put the dash in it. So that's all it really is to that. So let's go ahead and another thing here is that the inspector doesn't actually tell you where the gradient like needs to start. So for that you have to figure it out. Which it shouldn't be that hard. You can just see where the gradient starts, right? Which color is first, and then from there you can see which position it's at. So let's practice here, right, with this checkpoint number 4. So it should give us a little practice. All right, so let's see our canvas. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like we do not have a gradient here, which we need to add, right? And it looks like it's going from dim gray to beige. So everything else is fine besides this. Uh, okay, so actually we need to add this circle as well. And it looks like, as far as the other 2 circles, they should be fine. All right, so let's first go ahead and change this gradient on this outside circle here, on this the bigger circle here. So right now it's silver, and we want it to fade from dim gray to beige. And it looks like the dim gray, it might be kind of hard to tell at first if you aren't really familiar with the colors that well, but the beige looks like it's the one on the left here, and the dim gray is the one on the right. So if it says dim gray first, we want it to start with the dim gray from the right and then go to the beige, right? Now there are different ways to do this. So let's first do it the the first way, right? Which is just how they give it to us. So if we put in a gradient here, right? Gradient, and then we put in this, and I'm just gonna add this beforehand so I don't forget the extra parentheses there. So first we add dim gray as our first color, right? Of course, in parentheses, needs to be in parentheses. And then silver. So, but let's change the silver to beige, right? Beige. Now, if you do this, right? If you run this, it'll go from inside to outside, right? So from the center, working out, which is the standard for it. But now, if we add at the end here, the direction. So let's just put right for now. Let's just put right and run this. I mean, sorry, start equals right. Of course, you gotta not forget the start equals, and then in parentheses, right. Sorry about that. But of course, you need this start equals for when you want to change the way the gradient moves. So let's do the start equals right. Let's run that. All right. And of course, it looks like it's good, right? So that's the first way to do it. But if you would like to do it from the left as well, you can. So if I just put this to left, right? As you can see, if I run this code, it looks different. But what you can do is you can flip the colors over here for color 1, color 2. Instead of that, you can put it like this, and it looks the exact same. So if you flip the colors, you can also flip the start position, and it will turn out to be the same thing. So for now, just to make it simple, I'm gonna leave it as it was before, just so it's easier to see and kind of understand. I'm just gonna leave it like that. But of course, you could, if you flip the colors, that'll make it the opposite. And then if you flip the start position after as well, it'll yield the same image, or the same gradient rather. So that's just another way to kind of you can achieve the same result in 2 different ways. All right. Anyway, after that, we also need this crater, right? That looks like the last thing that we have here, and it's also a gradient circle. So let's just go ahead and add that right here. It tells us, if I just put a little line there, so circle, right? This is all fairly simple now. So x comma y, and then we also need the radius, and finally, we need this gradient. So fill, right, equals gradient, and then we have this gradient, which is from dark gray, right, and it goes to beige. All right. So let's see how it looks right now, which of course, as we know, is going to go from inside to outside. The gradient's going to go from inside to outside. And now we just need to add this star equals to. And let's put it from the right as well, right? That looks not right. Because, of course, this gradient is opposite to the one in the solution. And also to this outside circle, right? This one's opposite, as you can tell. Or, yeah. So, all right. So let's, actually, this is a dark gray, which is why it's different. But yeah, it is the opposite. So if we put a left in here, right, you can always run it and then check it and then go back and always, edit it after. But now you can see it looks right. So, of course, it kind of can be hard to tell from which direction you need to start. But if you put one in and it turns out to be wrong and your image looks wrong, of course, you can always change it and, go back and fix it. And you'll be able to tell if it looks the same. And so that looks good. All right. So that's all for gradients. So if we check this, yeah, looks good. All right, that's really good. All right, so that's all really for gradients here, and it just says an additional note here, which is that you can add depth to your projects or your images, as you can see here with this little drawing right here of this sort of wheel. This adds a little bit of a depth to it, which is a cool effect, and is really nice to have when you're coding these images and these shapes in Python. All right, so that's it for 1.1.2, and thank you guys for tuning in. In the next lesson, we'll go over 1.1. This is 1.2.1, and the next lesson we'll go over 1.2.2. All right, see you guys then.